Hi, everyone. It's Marco Brown. I wanted to share a little bit about where I come from. So, I came to Utah in 1995, came down to school here, went to BYU, and we left and then came back after a while. So, been in Utah for a long time, but I'm an Alaskan. So, I come from Alaska and I come from this little village in Alaska called Cold Bay. It is a village of 85 people, so I blame all of my social problems on the fact that I grew up in a village of 85 people in Alaska. Cold Bay is situated on the Aleutian Peninsula, right before the Aleutian Islands. So if you put Alaska on a map of the continental United States, if you overlay it, then Alaska will go from essentially San Diego over to the Panhandle in Florida and all the way north up to Montana, right around Canada. So it is absolutely massive. Alaska accounts for about 30% of the total land mass of the United States, if you can imagine that. We have more shoreline than the rest of the United States combined. It is an utterly massive and diverse place. So I was in the southwest part, kind of more kind of sort of over near San Diego more than anything else. So that's kind of where it was situated. My dad ran a salmon hatchery out there. Now, he's from the Four Corners area. He's from near Farmington, Mexico. My grandmother was a teacher down there. She was also a professor. She was still the smartest woman I think I've ever met in my entire life. Read incredibly fast, retained everything she ever read. She was just amazingly intelligent. So she got her doctorate in education and then became a professor at New Mexico State. And I tried to take after her as much as possible. She was a very good woman. She was very intelligent, like I said, very religious, just very good in every way. And I really, really enjoyed her. And my dad kind of took after that. He has some master's degrees. And his first one was in fishery biology at Oregon State. That's where I was born. Then 3 months after that, we went to Alaska. We lived on what we called the island. That was my dad's first salmon hatchery out there. And for the life of me, I still cannot remember what the island's called. The family just calls it the island, and I never bothered to memorize the place. Then we moved to Cold Bay, and he ran his salmon hatchery out there. That was kind of the love of his life. He loved that hatchery. He was very, very good at what he did. He was kind of a world leader in it. Very big hatchery, keeping the salmon stocks up so the commercial fishermen could fish and it wouldn't decimate the population. So that's what he did out there. And my mother did a few things out in Cold Bay, but primarily she was an air traffic controller. So Cold Bay is this oddity in the sense that it was an old World War II base. There was this humongous runway out there. So we'd have all these intercontinental flights coming in, which was the weirdest thing in the world. We'd have these flights from Tokyo or Seoul or Russia after communism. They'd come here and they'd land and they would refuel, and then they would go to Seattle or Portland or Anchorage or someplace like that. So we would get these humongous 747s or 777s, whatever they were. They would have 300 or 400 Japanese people on them. And they would get off the plane and kind of go roam around while they were refueling the plane. So we're this little tiny village, and there were a whole bunch of Japanese people just kind of roaming around. And then they would all get back on the plane and leave. I remember it was just one of the oddities of my childhood seeing that. Some of the other things that I really remember from my childhood is we had dogs, and we would play with the dogs all the time. I would go hunting all the time. One of my idiosyncrasies is that I simply do not understand why people in the lower 48 freak out about guns, because in Alaska, literally everybody has a gun, and you use guns to shoot things, but you never shoot other human beings with them. We just don't really have that problem. But, in the lower 48, everybody freaks out about these things, and I just don't get it. And that's directly because I grew up in Alaska. I'd go run my dogs every day. I'd get on a four-wheeler or three-wheeler, run them all over the place. It was just super, super enjoyable. My dog's name was Tristan, and it's a name I dearly love. I have two boys, but if I ever have a girl, I'm going to name her Tristan, and I just won't tell her that I've named her after the dog. We had a school out there It no longer runs, unfortunately, but we did have a school. There were about 15 to 20 kids in it at any given time, and that's K through 12. So from kindergarten through 12th grade, everything was in the same schoolhouse. And I remember really enjoying things out there. The nice thing about that education was that it wasn't too regimented, so we could kind of read and do whatever we wanted to do. I remember reading Of Mice and Men by Steinbeck when I was 9 or 10, so they just had me reading all these crazy things out there. And it was actually a really, really good education because it was so individualized. My dad was the the head of the school district out there. So it was just a really interesting educational experience. One of the other things that I remember deeply was the crab. So we had king crab out there. That's where they'd fish them. So the king crab guys would come in on their boats into the dock. It was Cold Bay, right? So we had a bay. So they come into the dock. And I remember they never wanted money for the crab because they were going to get tons and tons of money for that crab. I mean, they made so much cash. What they wanted was beer because they did not have beer on the boats. So my dad, who doesn't drink, right? We don't drink. So he would go buy them a case or two of beer, and they would give us these crabs. They would just fill our truck up with the crab. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of it. We would take it back. This is invariably, midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. We would take the crab back. We would dismember the crab and would flash freeze it and put it in this huge freezer that my dad had in the hatchery. Then we would eat the crab. So we'd save some of it and we would cook it up. We had butter, it seemed like a gallon of butter, and we just dip the crab in the butter and eat it. It was the best. I still remember from when I was a little kid, and by now it's like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and it always happened on a school day. So we would get done with this, we would go back and sleep until probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But it was just one of those things that I remember from my childhood that I dearly, dearly loved. And I kind of hate the fact that my sons actually will never get that type of experience. They live in a city, and there are lots and lots of great things about living in a city. They have a lot more opportunities in a lot of ways than I did, but they'll never have that type of experience. They'll never be able to just go out with a gun and, hunt something after school. This is another, I probably shouldn't talk so much about guns when I'm going to. I used to take guns to school. I'd strap them on the back of the 3-wheeler that I'd drive to school. I'd put them next to my boots. And then after that, we would just go, we'd go roam and we'd go shoot things. My sons will never have that experience. And that's a little bit unfortunate for me, but thankfully they have other opportunities that I didn't have out there. Anyway, thanks for following along with me as I kind of reminisce about my childhood. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.